Right. Thanks, Jill.
Okay, yeah, ready, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. And it's good to see the district councillors, Emma Dawson and Sam Bambridge. Thank you for coming along. And we have residents tonight, Kerry Boyd, James Brazier and Christine. And Jack Scott, who is actually, he's due to speak tonight. We've got apologies from Councillor Green, who is at work this evening. Do any members have any pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest to declare? No, thank you. Right, we need to receive and approve the minutes of the full council, the Planning and Highways and Environment Committee, the Finance and General Purposes Committee and the Human Resources Committee. Is it all right if we do that in bulk, Jill?
I think if you can actually agree the full council minutes first, and then the others, obviously, if members are in agreement, you can agree those in bulk because they're all to be received, the others.
Right. Do any members have any comments on the full council meeting for the minutes for the full council meeting on the 3rd of November? No, would somebody like to propose? Councillor Pennington, and second? Councillor Nightingale. And everybody in agreement? Thank you. The other committee meeting, the other committee minutes, is everybody in agreement? Do you have any comments on them? The planning, finance and HR? No. Would someone like to propose? Councillor O'Connor, seconded by Councillor Page. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. These are for the benefit of the public. These are being received minutes. They are actually already agreed by the committees, and this is a formal receiving by the full council. So I shouldn't have asked for anyone to comment. I beg your pardon. Next on the agenda item is the Town Clerk's report, which is a full one. Jill?
Thank you very much. Okay, so just a few items to update everybody on. I've now completed my IOSH Managing Safety training, which was a 3-day virtual course provided by Safety and Management Solutions. This covered areas such as assessing and controlling risks, understanding responsibilities and hazards, investigating incidents and measuring performance. I've also attended an adult mental health aware session, which was facilitated by Changing Minds. This explored issues such as stigma around mental health, stress and how to have a strategy to combat this, and a mental health toolkit that explained how to improve well-being, which can be shared with others in the community. I'm now a principal member of the SLCC after completing and submitting enough continuing professional development points, which were verified by SLCC. I've attended the CALC Net Zero and Environment Brief. This was a free workshop to explore the issues being faced in Kent and Medway now and in the future. There were informative speakers who outlined how the climate is changing and the effects that are being felt already, and how we can all play our part in limiting our contribution to global warming and driving low carbon economic recovery. The ambition is to reach net zero emission for the county of Kent by 2050. I've enrolled as a COVID-19 champion and received a newsletter, updates and attend fortnightly meetings. This is facilitated by local public health team and offers an opportunity to network with other towns and parishes and receive up-to-date facts, figures about COVID-19 in Kent. At the last meeting, the group discussed making use of local radio stations to share important messages with the community. I've attended Kent's Plan B virtual summit. There was a lot of engagement, and KCC shared an action plan that they have developed to support pollinators, encouraging biodiversity, and one example is to use grass verges for wildflowers. It was heartening to hear from 2 young students from Kent Children's University who are ambassadors for the initiative. There are further planned summits from 2021 onwards. I attended the KCC Parish Seminar to hear about updates and how communication is proposed to be improved between Kent County Council the community and local councils. There are explanations for the online services that KCC have available for the community and how these are being developed. Also, the virtual seminars sought views on the existing services that KCC provide for us all. I attended the Action with Communities in Rural Kent. This was a meeting about delivering affordable rural housing event. It was a series of workshops on planning and housing. The next issue of the Town Council magazine is now being worked on, and it's going to be printed and distributed by mid-January 2021. Just to remind everybody, the deadline for the Tree Biodiversity Warden is this week on Thursday, so I'll update members next week when the closing date has finished. I'm working in collaboration with Community Spirit Craft Group to raise funds for an outside defib heated cabinet for the community centre. I've secured a donated defibrillator from Thanet First Responders, and we're going to hold a Christmas raffle with tickets for sale and a strip. They are purchased either from the Town Council office or Krusty Cobbs the bakery. And we also, if anyone has any raffle prizes they want to donate, please contact Lorraine Hambidge. And finally, sadly, we learned that Dr. Dawn Crouch, our first honorary Freeman of Westgate-on-Sea, passed away on the 7th of November this year. Our thoughts are with all her friends at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. That's a very comprehensive report. You've been really busy. There's a couple of items on there, the Net Zero Environment Brief and the Plan B Virtual Summit and the affordable housing, which are possibly in contradiction to one of our items tonight on the Gallops. Thank you. Councillor Dawson, Councillor Bambidge, would you like
me to start?
Yes, thank you, Emma. Thank you.
Well, good evening, members, and good evening, Chairman. As you know, that the negotiations of Brexit has happened, and the country decided that we'd leave the EU. So, come this December, we're going to have lots of different sort of actions going on our roads. We had a briefing today from KCC. And we are mitigating against any, difficulties that we see in the future. I don't know whether any of you have been updated on any of this, but I just wanted to go through just a couple of things for the transition. They've been working on it since last March from a cost directorate resilience group, looking at all ways to mitigate against difficulties that may suddenly arise. As we know, Manston will be used as a very last result. So that is not intended to be used at all, really. Hopefully we won't need to use Manston whatsoever. By mid-December, an online site where checks can be made to see if the HGVs are ready to cross the border. All details will need to be completed before they access Kent. If the info isn't inputted into the system, entry is refused and the reg number is recorded. So that basically helps us be notified of any vehicles that aren't going to be, travelling into Kent. So that's one good way they're mitigating against difficulties. There will be ANPR cameras. Don't ask me I don't know what that actually stands for, but that's what they're called. Detecting if any passing stray freight from the dedicated red routes. So we've got red routes that outline where those vehicles should be. If they actually stray from there, they can actually get a £400 fine. They will not be able to cut through any other routes. The police are now patrolling those areas and fines will be given on spot. So they already know that before they come here, that they will be fined if they go outside those red routes. Routes from Manston to Dover along the A256 have CCTV cameras, and these will be monitored 24/7 by Highways Control Room at Alford. So they'll be able to see what is going on from their rooms, and then they notify the police if they see anything happening. KCC have put to the DFT that they want to be able to enforce antisocial parking. They are at the moment waiting a response for that, but that would be really good because then they could enforce that straight away without even having to go to the DFT. They can just get on with enforcing that. KCC have also asked the DFT if Kent reaches the capacity of 7,000, which is they do not want to reach that capacity. That would be really not a good situation for us to be in Kent. you know, they want to know what the plan is. They haven't actually got a response yet, but KCC will continue to ask for clarification where it looks like we could be exceeding that 7,000. But again, Manston is the last result, which has 4,000. They've got different TAP areas as well. They're looking at medical and welfare facilities on site. And if there is an extended lorry block, Operation Brock will be put into action. That's between junction 8 and 9 on the M20, and the contraflow will be put in place. So they really have worked hard to mitigate against anything, and I think they've done a really good job. You know, there's hardly any loopholes there for those HGVs to get round. It's just a case of, it's never happened before, putting it into action and seeing how it goes. I mean, the country did decide to exit the EU, so we have to go along with that, and it's not KCC's fault if things go wrong. It would be national government's fault. They're doing as much as what they possibly can to mitigate against any of that. So that's what we discussed today. The other thing I wanted to just chat with you about was that Birchington Council had asked me if I could sort of look into the 106 agreements for housing, because they would like to actually be included at the early stages of the 106 agreements so that they could actually make some changes. But there is a paper that came out in August 2020. This is a white paper called Planning for the Future. It's published 6 weeks ago by the Secretary of State, Robert Jenrick. It's not yet been implemented, but they do not have any intention of allowing the parish councils or the town councils to have any intervention or any seat on that table so that they could discuss, you know, any priority schemes. So when the priority schemes are being discussed, it's usually with KCC and TDC in our local area. It is not going to be discussed with the parishes or the town councils. So that will be a problem, because you can't then intervene, you can't get involved, and yeah, it is a big problem. And again, the only way that, you know, you can register what you want is through your district and through the district councillors. So it is a problem that we won't be able to resolve no matter how much we lobby. That white paper is already been out and it's going to be implemented. I did seek some guidance on this from someone at KCC who knows about planning, and yeah, I mean, KCC, if they could get involved with domestic housing, this would be fantastic, because they could use their reserves to build low-cost housing that could be rented for social housing, because we all know we do need some form of housing, but the housing that we really need is the social housing. That's where you've got the long list of people wanting to get onto the housing list, is all those people that want social housing. These bigger houses, obviously, are unaffordable. They're too high. People can't afford them. So the social housing would be brilliant. And I think that's the only way that we could really start to lobby, is to get KCC involved in domestic housing. But that is going to be a bit of a long route as well. Yeah, and then there would be no more developers getting money from it, because it would be in KCC's control, and they would be able to get the council housing back. Anyway, that's my report for today. I just thought I could focus on those two issues. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Emma. So I thought the deadline for that was 17th of December for the planning white paper.
I think it's already been implemented, so it's out there, it's readable. It's just that it's not been implemented. Sorry, it's out there, it's readable, but it's according to the planning officer that I spoke to, it's going to be implemented. So I don't think there's much chance of being able to sway that the town councillors and the parish councillors are going to have a seat at the pre-discussion.
Right, so they've cut off local information at the knees.
Yeah, I would say that you don't have much of a strong case to be able to sit at the pre-negotiations to discuss beforehand.
Okay, so it's KCC who need the support with the domestic housing.
Well, KCC, yeah. I mean, if that would be a really brilliant action, if KCC could implement domestic housing, and they looked after the social housing, then we would most definitely have some sort of, it would be an easier plan for those people that desperately need that housing, that desperately need. And that's what we're looking at, 2,000 waiting list. People are waiting in the 2,000 mark for Thanet. That's where we need the housing. We don't need these big houses. And that's where the problem lies. You know, we haven't actually looked at first needs. We've just looked at really giving the developers the free run. And KCC would be the best, you know, authority to deal with social rents, and to take it like on a wider view, because then they could plan for the whole of Kent rather than like little pockets. They could think, like, you know, where could we actually put these that would make a difference? And you know, yeah, I think we're a little bit too late, to be honest. But yeah, just looking at that, because it was requested from me from Birchington Parish Council. I just thought I would let you know.
Yes, no, thanks for that, Emma. That's important. Councillor Bambidge.
Oh, hi, Councillor Cornford. Thank you, Jill, for inviting me this evening. Sounds like Councillor Dawson just had the same briefing that we just had with TDC not being happy about Manston being used for the lorry park, but as she just said, that it is the last resort. I've come along tonight. I communicated with Hannah this week, and she told me that she was going to be delivering the Town Council's response to the Gallup site, and commissioned the Goldstone Town Planning to put that report together. Obviously, I've been keeping an eye on the objections that are going in, because I need to, you know, like gather that information so that I can speak on this when it comes to the planning committee. Obviously, like many other people, I'm concerned about the nature of the hybrid application. You know, the phasing, the planning and delivery of that, and of course, you know, like the infrastructure problems. So I'm very interested just to hear what Hannah has got to report on this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bambidge. And Councillor Matthew Scott.
Good evening. Yeah, just a few bits on the district. Basically, as we know, we're going from tomorrow. The national lockdown will now be tier 3 for Thanet. Not really much to report. I think everyone's seen the national news, so we kind of know where we're going and what we need to do. The information's out there, but happily to also share that amongst those who still need it. It's also on the Facebook pages. But that's just tier 3 side. One of the things I did take away from a members' briefing today, and obviously something that was highlighted on Friday the 27th, it was the Fuel Poverty Awareness Day. And one of the key aspects was about the affordability of energy and being able to heat, especially around this. I mean, if anyone can actually know now, it's been quite cold these last few weeks, and it looks to be a bitterly cold winter. So TDC have been put in place a actual website to basically see if you're eligible to have help towards your energy bills. There is actually a few officers who are working alongside this. I've taken as much information as I can, but essentially it's all on this website here, which is www. I might have given you too many W's there, thanet.gov.uk, and then it's a / energy in the home, and that basically gives you all the information that's going to be needed. It just gives you an opportunity to see if you are obviously a low income earner, or for those who have obviously unfortunately been furloughed or worse, lost their jobs. It's going to be a very hard time for anyone who is going to need to actually heat. And the old saying goes, it is a case for some people, regrettably in Thanet, the case of heat or read. So that should hopefully give people the option. Basically, the officer also is going to be looking out to moisture. So one of the key things I thought might be a good idea for the town council would be to leave some space potentially for a magazine to see if we can acquire some A5, fly some information on that, and I will happily speak to the officer in that question, basically get that information out there. Hopefully the magazine will still be out in time to allow people to sort of pick up on that. And yes, fly distribution and just any sort of potential opportunities that we can sort of get that out there to allow people to basically know that there is help out there. The other one was basically for small businesses, for local businesses still. The TDC are basically doing a discretionary additional restriction grant. I believe that is still currently active, and basically you can go online to also see if you are eligible. It basically looks to still look at those of like B&Bs, those which are pubs, landlords, etc., those who do accommodation, those who in the tier 3 instance are still not going to be able to operate, and therefore they're looking. So that's basically that on reports. I can happily share some via emails. I obviously do so on my Facebook pages, but for those who do not use Facebook or anything like that and would like to have those informations email them to themselves, they can do. And that's my report on the EDC level. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Hello
you.
there. Done with my
Thank
report.
you. Thank you, Councillor Scott. Jill, can we ask for those links for our website?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Councillor Matthew Scott. And also, if you wanted to put those in the chat, Councillor Matthew Scott, while we're sitting here, that might be useful for the members of the public that are attending this evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There isn't any problems with people hearing me at all. I know that I tend to stutter in and out, and I'm right next to the router. So, was all that information clearly relayed, or would you like a sort of a brief written report at a later date?
It was a bit staccato, and
Okay.
yeah, some councillors found it difficult to hear exactly what you were saying.
Okay. I think that might just be a hint of not talking too much. Cool, no problems. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is the councillors' reports. But before we do that, I just wanted to say, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. We're making a change to the agenda items. We're bringing agenda item number 12 after the councillor reports. I did talk to Jill about that earlier, but I should have said at the beginning of the meeting, so apologies for that. I know that Councillor Donaldson has a report for us.
Sorry, Councillor Cornford.
Yes.
You meant it's after item 7. So after the public right to speak, that's when we're bringing item 12.
Oh, yes, beg your pardon. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I've been to 2 parish church council meetings with Sharon Goodyear Own Kitchen, and we're going to implement our own kitchen into Westgate as soon as it's practicable. So I'm meeting actually with Sharon Goodyear in the morning. I think I'll become a member of the parish church council because they're inviting me to all their meetings the next one in January. And after I finished the meeting, I put the television on and there was the Bishop of Dibley, which was kind of an action replay of the meeting I'd just been in. But anyway, I'm also very interested in fuel poverty and attended a presentation by Eve Lockton Goddard, who's the fuel poverty officer in Thanet District Council. And I think Matt might have just been talking about that between his staccato bits. So I'm very interested in combining the 2 things together, because the 2 things are kind of a double whammy. So people, you know, make a choice of either having food on the table or heating the house, you know, so it's quite desperate. And the other impact of the coronavirus has been that, you know, not only have businesses and restaurants and pubs been decimated, but also the voluntary sector is losing a lot of its funding because it's actually been diverted into COVID-related projects. So, you know, the National Lottery has in fact shifted something like £750 million away from sort of community, heritage, sport and all the rest of it that they normally fund. And it's gone on to, you know, COVID related projects. You know, so it's been a very bad year for the voluntary sector. Kent Social Enterprise are having problems because they probably won't receive their funding for next year, and so on and so forth. So the whole thing kind of, you know, it drags out into the, you know, into the voluntary sector as well. And we are looking for funding for the asset transfers. So I'm working with Jill on that, and that is going to be difficult. So we'll have to have a kind of a, in our budget, some monies. I mean, we've already got £5,000, which will get us started, but maybe you know, a year's worth of additional money incorporated into our budgets, which we're going to be looking at later on. And that's it, really.
Thank you. I think Councillor Cornford must have lost her connection, so I'm sure she'll be back with us in a moment. But is there another town council that has a report? Yeah, okay, thank you, Councillor Pennington. Sorry, Councillor, yes, you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to pass on, I'd attended the CALC AGM, which the chair has already referred to in her update. There was one interesting comment that I noted in the discussion. Last year at the AGM, a motion was adopted which called for levels of traffic pollution to be included in the planning stage well before detailed planning applications come forward. And this issue has been taken up by CALC and is quite a live issue. And in my view, this is quite important when we come to the discussion on the new proposals for Westgate, that we ensure this is taken into account. The second is, and I feel I'm the sort of brother of Councillor Donaldson. I also went to the fuel poverty discussion, which was extremely interesting. I think I forwarded the slides to everyone, but it does also tie in with the work of the food banks, and I've become involved with on the board of the Margate Independent Food Bank, which some of you may know of, which works in the centre of Margate and distributes about 180 to 200 meals each week. The last thing I wanted to mention, if I can read my own handwriting, was that the Business Forum met shortly after the last council meeting, and Councillor Donaldson was also there. We had good discussion. We had, as we usually do, a guest speaker who was the business support officer from TDC, Sharon Davis, if I got the name right. And she outlined to some extent what TDC is able to do for businesses. We also had a discussion, almost a difficult one, I would say, about the effect of firstly the lockdown and then tier 3 on businesses in Westgate. In particular, the fact that a lot of them sell items which are still available in supermarkets. So they, on the one hand, have been forced to close, but supermarkets are still selling the same goods that they would normally be selling. So it's not really a level playing field. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pennington. Is that Councillor Cornford? Are you back with us?
I'm trying to be.
Okay, no, we can hear you. That's fine.
You can hear me, okay?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
I'm on my
Yep.
mobile now.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Pennington just gave his report. So I'm not sure if there's any other town councillors that want to do a report.
Anybody? No.
Oh, I think Councillor Hannah Scott's got her hand raised.
Okay. Yes, I'm a bit stuffed, handicapped. I can't see who's raising hands. Oh, this is really ridiculous.
No worries. Yeah, so it's just a quick update with regards to the trees on Lymington Green. This time last year, during Tree Week, we planted 21 little trees out there, little whips, as a community tree planting day. Majority of them, I think I've reported before, have survived, apart from one that looked pretty dead. So Councillor Page and I went out and did a tree care day last weekend. I went out one day and then Councillor Page went out the other day, just to sort of look after the trees and weed them and things like that. And then I met Councillor Cornford last weekend, and we swapped over the rowan trees with some other trees that have been looked after by Councillor Cornford in her allotment for the past year. So it's looking pretty good. The trees in Councillor Cornford's allotment have grown really well out of the wind and being well looked after. So they're slightly larger than the ones that are in the green at the moment. So when you walk along there now, you'll see sort of the difference in height. And I think, you know, it's nice to see some more substantial trees along there. So just a quick update on that.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. That's the power of rainwater, everybody. That's rather than tap water for trees. Right, moving on. Item number 7, public right to speak. We've got Jack Scott of the Chemical Free Veg. Jack, are you there? Hello? Jill, can you see Jack?
I can't see him, but he is on mute. Can you hear us, Jack? I don't think he can hear us.
Ah, can we send a chat message,
Yes.
please? Sorry, I'm trying to re-log on the PC, but it's not happening. I can't actually see, I can't see Jack on there anymore.
It looks like he's logging off and logging back on again. Perhaps we just couldn't hear him.
Yeah.
And he's going to try and log off and log back on again, so his audio works, something like that.
The joys of virtual. Environmentally friendly, but raggy on the nerves. Oh. This is definitely gin. I shouldn't say that. Ah, here we are. Is that you, Jack?
Hello, yeah.
Oh, excellent. We can hear you now. That's good.
I've had a few objections from regarding the Millwood planning permission. And I'd just like to point out a few things about the footpaths. People seem to think the footpath from Minster Road and off Belmont Road and around the fields are all official public footpaths. And when you look on the KCC maps and whatnot, it's just footpaths from Dentley going up to Smiley Farm and from Linksfield Road are official footpaths. My parents and the residents of my neighbours around here, closest cottages, did a petition 10 years ago regarding the grass path along Minster Road being installed. Mr. Thomas King had the backing of it, as well as Mr. Kerwin. I'm wondering if the council can raise comments or objections regarding the removal of this, as you know, it was petitioned and it did get a fair amount of signatures.
Ah, right. Now that's a good point to include.
Secondly, not many people are mentioning about the ecology around these fields. I think Hanger Scott might know about this. Quetz Park has recently moved to a conservation agriculture scheme in 2019, where they have moved to no-till, reduced pesticides, wildflower meadows around the edge, although you might see, which David Linton is now ploughing up, and increased cover crops. Since they've done this since 2019, there's been a notable increase in the wildlife around here. I've seen golden plovers, grey herons, slow worms, hares. There's been a sighting of a badger nearby.
Brilliant.
And corn buntings, the list goes on. However, Millwood's ecology report was done in 2018, a year before Quetz moved to conservation agriculture. To me, that makes that ecology report out of date. I wonder if the local council could raise concerns about that too.
Definitely.
And that's all.
Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you for taking the time to come along. I really appreciate. We really appreciate it. Thank you. There's no one else to speak tonight for item number 7.
No.
So we will carry on with the next item on the agenda, which is the finance reports. And if those who've no, I mean, sorry, no, I've already, I'm sorry, I'm put out by this mobile. We've updated that. I moved the item number 12, outline planning application for the Gallops, to follow on from the report from Jack Scott. Thank you, Jill. Would you like to introduce that, Jill?
Yes, no, happy to do that. So clearly, I think everybody that's probably attending, that's members and the public that are here. This is the Gallops outline planning application that has been submitted to Thanet District Council by Millwood Homes. We have had some professional planning advice from Goldstone Planning, Town Planning. So we have that report that's been shared with members. And then I think Councillor Dr. Hannah Scott has been working on that feedback and communicating an actual draft comments for the members to consider this evening. So I don't know if Councillor Dr. Scott, would you like to talk about your report that you gave to members?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know, sort of, it's only a few pages long, so I might as well see if I can sort of read. Let's see. Yeah, it's a few pages long, but I think I can get through it in a few minutes. What do you think, Councillor Cornford? Is it okay to just read through it so that everybody's clear what we're saying?
It's quite long for reading all the way through. Can you précis it a little?
Okay.
You know, bullet point it.
Yep. So
Thank you.
Obviously, sort of in the introduction is just about the fact that, you know, over the past 5 years, we have actually been opposed to this number of houses on the grade 1 and 2 agricultural land, the loss of separation between Westgate and Garlinge, the loss of the open space, and, you know, the overdevelopment of our town. So, you know, we were against this allocation in the first place, but we understand there is a need for housing. However, we were sort of concerned about this overarching calculation for housing need. So we opposed that as well, and that we wanted really the methodology to value the agricultural land more than it did. However, that hasn't happened, and the local plan was approved this year. So therefore, we had to concede that this our site would be used as a strategic site for housing. But now, obviously, with that in mind, we're now looking to ensure that those houses that will be built will be taken, will be built in a way that are future looking, take the environment into account and take our residents into account, and to not impact the town in a negative way now or in the future. So the objection, really, we've got a number of material planning concerns. The first of which was the allocation, which has spread all the way down to Shottendane Road. The first concern that we had was particularly the allocation which spread further down and across the footpath on the west side of Minster Road, so towards Somali Farm. So that section there, houses were supposed to be built just up to the footpath. However, in this allocation, they're built further down across the footpath. So we were concerned about that, because really we wanted the allocation to be kept behind the footpath, and therefore when you're walking along the footpath you have a lovely open space to look across, and also the farmland going down. So we were going to oppose that allocation there. However, with regards to the extension all the way down to Shottendane Road, we were considering whether that extension down to Shottendane Road on the east side might enable better density, better housing density, and also better access to the site. So it might actually be a better design. We weren't convinced with regards to that. Then we were really concerned about the fact that there was a lack of travel plan. So we're not totally sure how traffic will move around the site, and also the impact of the extension of Shottendane Road and this new inner circuit. And for the fact that the travel plan wasn't available to us, then we are opposing it on that grounds too. The lack of renewable energies on the site. So the statement in their consultation was stated, after taking into consideration a number of different factors, it concludes that no renewable technology is viable for this scheme. So we regard that as a blatant disregard for future populations, given the fact that, you know, we're in a climate emergency. So we oppose the application on that grounds as well. And it's clear that the approach taken by the developers is against the aspirations of policies within the local plan. With regards to birds on the site, we're opposing the application due to lack of meaningful mitigation for the farmland birds. So we noticed that they have stated there are corn bunting, yellow hammer, skylark, dunnock, house sparrow. It goes on and on and on, and they are species of principal importance, and therefore they need to be regarded. Impact on wildlife. The application doesn't fully mitigate the effect on protected species such as bats and slowworms. And it was interesting that Jack mentioned that there was a badger that had been seen on site. So, sorry, they need to obviously do the conservation assessment again. So then there was a number of aspects about the connections to the existing communities, parking, surface water flooding, water accessibility and sewerage, and the lack of detail within the plan with regards to these, and they're another material consideration against which we're going to oppose the master plan, because there's just not enough information as to whether we think that there actually will be correct sewerage, correct water availability for the future, and also we're not convinced that there won't be an increased risk of surface water flooding. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Do any councillors have any questions or any anything to add to this? Any points they'd like included? I can only see Councillor
Dobson. Councillor Dobson's got his hand up.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask Hannah, obviously this is a hybrid application that's been put in. Have you covered that, the fact that it's just for Dandelion and Garland, and where is the master planning for this? How's this fitting into the phasing, and what's the next part? Did Goldstone look at that?
Yeah, so that was another concern, that we weren't completely clear how the phases were going to fit into one another. And that was, I think, I'm not too sure if I've actually just skipped that over, but I'll make sure that that's in the representation as well, is the fact that we weren't clear how one phase would go from one to the other, and how then the impacts will be mitigated and the infrastructure will be mitigated as it goes on. So I can put that in there as well. Was there anything in particular that you were concerned about, Councillor Banbridge?
Well, obviously it's a case of, you know, we've got the development going on with Jossendane Road and development going on with Garland, and it's just looking at the time schedules as well, and you know what kind of chaos would be caused along that road, you know, because as you know, a road shut down in Thanet, and you know, everything comes to a standstill, doesn't it? So I think the whole phasing and timing is important.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely put that in there. And I think it was the main point that we were making with regards to the fact that there was no travel plan. So therefore we weren't clear how the cars would move around, and especially with regards to then the phasing of the inner circuit and how that would all fit together.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Councillor Banbridge.
So you've got Councillor Donaldson got his hand, and then it's Councillor Pennington.
All right, thank you, Jill. Councillor Donaldson.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think there's two things, and also have just been kind of emphasised tonight by Emma. The first thing is, I mean, the whole consultation process, I feel that the whole consultation process has completely misled us in terms of, firstly, the 106 monies, which, you know, I mean, this 2,000 houses in Westgate is £300,000 a unit, times 2,000 houses, £600,000. And when we spoke with Danelle of Goldstone the other evening, she was saying that, you know, we might get 100,000, which is not exactly a sweetener, which is quite pathetic, really. And the other thing is that when Millwards came last year and we had, you know, a face-to-face open meeting, they were talking about 40% social housing, and now there's no social housing at all. So the two things that we were kind of promised, which is this, the Section 106 and the social housing, have just been taken out. And in terms of the, you know, negotiations for those things, we're not even invited to the table.
No. Thank you, Councillor Donaldson. Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to underline the difficulties that the plans will cause for current residents of Westgate. We did raise at our meetings, for instance, the issue of the clinic, which is due to be built, and we feel that a lot of the current residents of Westgate will be put in difficulty in terms of accessing the clinic, which is quite a long way away from where many of them live. It seems to me that, as Councillor Donaldson has pointed out, the gains to Westgate are very, very few indeed. The losses to Westgate are quite substantial. The gains to TDC are enormous. Over the first 4 years of the project, they stand to gain about 3.6 million of additional rates, over the lifetime of the project when it's operational. And in the startup phase, they'll be getting an additional 2.2 million a year of government funding for new housing. So the gains to TDC are very substantial, which is why the proposal is so important to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pennington. Also, the new homes bonus, that provides 10.9 million for Thanet District Council over the 4 years. Do any other councillors have anything else to say?
Yeah, Councillor O'Connor's got
comment on. Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah.
Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about the turning area at the end of Belmont Road. You know, it's where the school and that lot's going to be. There's, you know, there's houses up to the end of that street, and it just worries me that you've got the clinic supposedly up that end and you've got the school supposedly up that end. I mean, you can't even turn a car around. It's just so narrow. We had 2 ambulances up the road today, and the complete Belmont Road was completely blocked. Nobody could move because you can't get past it at all. The cars are either side. You know, it's absolutely ludicrous. You know, we're lucky we have to get small, you know, dustbin vans to come round at, you know, at the crack of dawn to be able to get through the streets and things like that. We've already had some little bits of building that's going up around the road, and the big lorries trying to turn and negotiate coming into up towards the Belmont Road in that way has been horrendous the last few weeks, with just the small little buildings that we've had and houses being renovated. So it's a major concern that's, you know, that's going to be complete gridlock, that people won't be able to get out or get into that area. And we were reassured that they would come out and have a look to see exactly what it is, and they haven't. It's just a bit on paper, and they really have had nobody's come out, you know, that's local to have a look to see exactly what it is. That we are not exaggerating. It really is a problem with the parking around this area already, let alone with anything else like that being happening. So that's my thing, is that really does worry me.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I mean, that Belmont Road situation was something that we spoke directly to Millwoods about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also this application, there are a lot of cul-de-sacs in it, which have thrown up problems in the past with parking and vehicle access. And it's been pointed out, it's not a bespoke design for Westgate, which is what we've been speaking to the developers about since, what date did we start to speak to Millwood, Councillor Scott? Councillor Dr. Scott?
I'll mute, no. Was it like 4 years ago now, is it?
Yes, we've had, yes. We've had a lot of discussion with them, and they don't seem to have taken anything on board. Can I just say, with this report, it would be good to have a conclusion. You know, the overall image of the report, the fact that you know, especially with wildlife, species have been mentioned, but as you said, there's been no mitigation about how to counteract the effects of the housing and the domestic side, you know, pets, animals, you know, domestic animals. Also, the fact that, as you said, about the ecology not being looked at. I mean, we've heard tonight the number of sessions that or meetings that the town clerk has been to on zero carbon and ecology and the bee project. That's really not apparent in any of their plans. They mention such things, but then they don't follow up at all. So I think it would be good. I'm waffling a bit, sorry. As I said, a conclusion would be good. And I'd like to suggest that we add the comments, for instance, the comments from Jack Scott and the outdated ecology report, your comments, Councillor Pennington's comments, and Councillor Donaldson's comments. If we defer to the town clerk to collate these additional items and get back to you, Councillor Dr. Scott, as chair of PH&E, to okay it, to agree it before submitting to TDC. Is that acceptable?
That's fine. I've actually, as people were talking, I've noted down the comments, so I've already sort of added it into the document. So if that helps, Jill, I've kind of already sort of amended the document as I've been listening to people's comments. So I've added the comment in from Jack Scott with regards to the outdated report, the sighting of the badgers, the fact that Quex has changed its farming technique to a conservation farming technique, and therefore the biodiversity and the nature around that area has improved significantly. And I think that's a really good point. And then I've put down comments with regards to parking, Councillor O'Connor has mentioned, and the other comments that have been made from councillors. So I've kind of been amending it as I've been going along, and then I can put a summary at the top, so that an executive summary at the top, and then have the full report at the bottom. So would you like that if I then bring it to the Planning, Highways and Environment Committee?
Unfortunately, that's going to be too late because that's on the 8th and we have to submit this by the 8th.
Yes.
So
sorry, Councillor Crawford as well.
Jill.
Councillor Matthew Scott and Councillor Pennington have both got their hands waving, just to alert you.
I'm sorry, you'll all have to forgive me because I can only see one person at a time. So thank you, Jill. Yes, Councillor Matthew Scott.
Hello. Yeah. I mean, I've read the report that was put out, and I find it's very comprehensive. I mean, it reiterates what we've been doing as town council for the last, well, from what my knowledge is, for the last coming on to 5 years now. I think one of the key things I did notice and read with the regards to the flooding and the sewage is we do actually have some evidential fact that Southern Water have had difficulty actually maintaining the sewage systems when we've had torrential rain. I think it was, I don't know if it was 2016, it's definitely recent, like 2017, where they actually had to flush out the backlet, the whatever you may call them, into the actual sea, to which they faced a massive fine. So, I mean, I don't know if that could be used as an evidential thing to say, look, you're about to put 2,000 homes on this site that already has had problems historically with surface flooding. Not only are we going to be having that, but we have a sewage system that is sometimes, very often or not, struggling when we do get these torrential rains, and they often do happen. So, I mean, I find it's a very comprehensive report. I mean, just saying on this alone, I'm basically in my own position right now. I've put my own objections in as both a resident and a district and town councillor, and I think that should be a case for everyone. Looking on the application as it stands, there's only been 15 objections on this, and if you go by a social media outcry, apparently everyone's devastated by this, and yet you look on the official process, the way we're going, only 50 people have actually made this. So, I mean, I think, you know, obviously not for today, but I think individually, it's definitely a case that we really need to put these applications forwards, not applications, objections forwards. And I mean, that letter in itself is just a great guideline, just what people can object about and why. For those who feel that they may not fully know reasons, as opposed to just saying, I don't want it, there's some evidential reasons there. So yeah, I'm in support with this letter, and you know, let's not give up the fight, as they say. But yeah, thank you.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Pennington.
Thank you. Yes, my comments go in the same direction. It's that normally we do adopt a position of objection or no objection, and I think we should very clearly state that we do object to this proposal. The grounds on which we object have been spelt out by Councillor Dr. Scott, but I think our position overall should be very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. You're absolutely right on that. So do we, is everyone happy with the suggestion that we defer this to the town clerk and she tweaks it all, and then Councillor Dr. Scott agrees it and it's sent to TDC? I can't see anybody.
Yes,
Jill, you're going to have, I'm sorry, Jill,
right.
You're going to have to take this bit over.
People are nodding and putting their thumbs and hands in the air. So I think, if we can do a resolution that everyone's strongly objecting, and then we can do the separate, that we are deferring, that this report that Councillor Dr. Scott has prepared with the comments that have been fed into the meeting this evening, they are collated, and I'll work with Councillor Dr. Scott. We'll get this ready, and then we'll submit it to the District Council before the deadline of the 8th of December.
Thank you very much, Jill. Are we using our voting tool?
I'm happy to propose.
Thank you,
I haven't.
Councillor Scott. And
Second.
Oh,
Jill, yeah. Is everyone happy with the voting tool? Are you all, have you all voted?
and we can see it. Thank you.
Yes. So
I using a web-based version of this now because of the intermittent thing. I don't see no tool. Sorry, my English is not good today.
okay. So you can't see the voting tool.
I'm afraid not.
That's okay.
But if anyone
So
is lucky to put as.
So yeah, that's okay. So yeah, I've got 7 for and 1 against. So Councillor Matthew Scott, are you for or against? Oh,
I'm for putting the proposal and getting this letter out yet.
thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
I might have clicked the wrong button.
I think somebody has.
Is that you against it, Councillor Dr. Scott?
I didn't vote.
Okay.
I was against the houses.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So that's everybody for the fact that we are objecting. Okay. And then if
Yes.
I relaunch the poll. So this
Thank you,
time,
Jill.
this is for the actual report that I'm going to be working with Councillor Dr. Scott, and we're actually want to get the vote where you are agreeing that you want me and Councillor Dr. Scott to work on the report collaboratively and submit it to DDC before the 8th of December.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you very much. That's everybody in favour. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Our new tool worked. Okay, moving on. The finance reports. I'm going to hand over to our Vice Chairman, Councillor O'Connor. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor.
Hi, everybody. We're going to try and get my head around now. We've got the normal finance reports, which are our bank account statements, which is the deposit account, current account and petty cash account. So you can see exactly what we hold in funds at this moment in time. We also have a list of payments that were put through in October. So you can see all those individual ones. We also have a detailed payments, receipts and payments one, which shows you the percentage of spend that we've been having to date. And we have the same report, but it's done by comparison to last year. So you can see the different ways that we're looking at the different reports. I've not had any feedback on this to say that anybody wants any particular breakdowns this month. So I'm assuming everybody is happy with the report as it stands at the moment. Obviously we're not earning any income. Thank you. We're not earning any income because obviously of COVID, and on the same spending out on events and everything else like that. So it's just ticking over, keeping our business. But I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the office staff, because with COVID, they're picking up so much extra of making sure that people get their prescriptions and things like that. So although they might not be working on events and everything else like that, work hasn't stopped in the office, and obviously the information that's been coming from the office is being great for everybody. So they've certainly been worth their weight in gold for doing that, and obviously the operatives have still been able to get out and clean the streets and everything for us, so that's very good. So I'm happy for the reports. Is everybody happy with them, or is there any comments to come through?
Does anyone have any comments? We're all in favour? We're all okay? Yes. Oh, thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got,
Sorry.
oh, thank you. So I've got 7 because Councillor Matthew Scott, are you in favour? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill. And thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I meant to say also Chair of Finance.
Thank you.
Right, item number 10. Yes, membership
No,
of finance.
excuse me,
Oh,
there's
I'm
number 9
racing
first.
ahead. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We need to see if anybody would be willing to sit on the finance and general 5 now. So we would like.
Yes, that's the one. Sorry, I've marked it as 10 because I moved them around.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. You carry on, Councillor O'Connor.
No, I just put it out to any of the councillors if they were happy to sit on the Finance and General Purpose Committee, so that that we can make it up to 6 members. I won't put anybody in an embarrassing position now, but if you can let us know or let the office know if anybody's happy to come onto the committee, it would be useful. All right, thank you.
We're clashing here. There is actually a decision required on that one, and I do know that there is a candidate.
Councillor has his hand in the air.
Yes, Councillor Donaldson. Thank you. You would like to nominate?
Councillor Donaldson, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I'd like to nominate Roy, please. Or
yeah, Councillor Nightingale.
Roy Nightingale, please.
Wonderful, thank you.
And would somebody like to second that, please? Councillor O'Connor. And is everybody in favour?
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Oh, and for all those watching, Faye is Councillor Nightingale.
We assume that's his weekend name.
Oh, nice one. Right, serious note, the policy review, item 11. Following a recommendation from the HR committee, the following policies are proposed for adoption. First of all, the councillors' email policy. Now, I have to say that this is really important because it's very easy when you're hammering out emails to miss who you're sending it to. I know I've been a culprit for that, and I have to really check that I'm not sending it to everybody instead of 1 or 2 people. So the email policy, has everybody looked at this, and are there any comments?
Councillor Walling's got a comment.
Councillor Walling.
Yeah, I have 3 minor things on it. It's not adopted and not for review, but
you've got very, very bad sound, Councillor Walling.
Have I? Okay.
Yes, it sounds like a didgeridoo.
I can't play one of those. Okay, well, I'll talk slowly and shout. One of the things is it says one of the fault means not making trivial emails. And what is the definition of what would be defined as trivial? I mean, it's a classic one that, you know, what one person thinks is trivial, another person doesn't. In, you know, late 30s, Neville Chamberlain thought he got Hitler down to being trivial, but he hadn't. So, you know, trivial is a very strange comment to use.
Thank you for your comment on that. Is that the only comment?
Well, there are a couple more. But, one of them doesn't only matter. 1.7. How long it's deemed to be away? You know, if you're away, well, you're away for a day, but that count. If you're away for a month, obviously that does. Where does the differentiation and the definition of the time of away come in? And the only other one I've got is, are all the disclaimers on the bottoms of emails the same, because the footers aren't, so are the displays. That's a very, very valid idea, very valid concept.
Right, thank you, Councillor Wallen. Do any other councillors have any comments? Do any other councillors have any comments?
Not that I can see, no.
All right, would somebody like to propose? No, we're sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
decision. We do need to make a decision on this. So
Yes.
if somebody would like to propose that we accept the,
Councillor Page has her hand.
thank you, Councillor Page, and seconded by,
Councillor Matthew Scott.
thank you. And everybody in favour? Are we hands up on this?
I can launch the poll. Let me launch the
Would
poll.
you mind?
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got 6 members for, 1 abstained and 1 against, and that just leaves me with Councillor Matthew Scott. Sorry, you 4. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill. And the other policy is the privacy policy, which is, well, all policies are important. Do any councillors have any comments about this? Any comments, Jill? Is anyone,
Yes,
has anyone got their hand up?
Councillor Wallen has his hand up.
Councillor Wallen, go ahead.
Yeah, just a general question. Part of it says the right to erase data held on somebody under certain circumstances. What is the difference?
Wait, whereabouts are you on this? Because you're very hard to hear. Could you pinpoint the area you're talking about, please?
Well, it's the right to erasure. It says you have the right to have your personal information erased in certain circumstances, but it doesn't, from what I can see, it doesn't tell you what the certain circumstances are. So that's very circumstantial.
I think these are bullet points on the actual general GDPR statutory legislation. Am I right with that, Jill? Or
yes,
in the right area?
Yes.
So if you need to look that up, Councillor Wallen, you'll find it with.
I'm not going to vote to approve something that says certain circumstances if I don't know what the certain circumstances are, because that's complete non-different. It doesn't work. You need to know what you're basing it on.
Yes, well, like I said, these are bullet points. We haven't got the whole GDPR legislation in our policy, but they refer. This is standard. This is standard stuff. If you've done any training with GDPR, which clearly our clerk has, and 1 or 2 councillors have as well, you would understand that fact. Do any other councillors have any comments on this policy?
I'm not going to vote for something that isn't detailed.
No, you made that very clear, Councillor Wallen. Thank you very much. Do any other councillors have any comments on this policy?
Councillor Page.
Councillor Page, thank you. Councillor Page?
Just unmuting, thank you. I just want to reiterate that GDPR is a legal requirement in terms of data storage, data collection, and rules around privacy and how data is stored and maintained. The points that Councillor Wallen is referring to actually stipulate where you may have the facility to have any of your stored data or information redacted, altered, or completely removed. But those are standard legal requirements, and every organisation will be working to that legality. And that's the point I'd like to make.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Thank you. Do any other councillors have comments on this policy, please?
No.
Jill, is any? No more? No. In that case, would a member like to propose that we adopt this policy? And second?
Councillor Pennington was first, I think, with his
Thank
hand.
you, Councillor Pennington. And
Councillor Donaldson, I think, was second.
thank you.
And I'll launch the poll so you can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 7 members for 1 abstain, and that just leaves Councillor, oh, thank you, Councillor Matthew Scott, that's 4. Okay, so that's 8 members for 1 abstention. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the draft town council budget. And over to you, Councillor O'Connor. Thank you.
Hi. As everybody's been aware, we've been working with Jill on the budget so that we can get a bit of a heads up to go forward. And basically, the finance and general purpose, we went through the first draft just to have a look to see if there's areas that we felt that it should either be improved or not. The budget was is really kind of set against of what the spend has been for the last couple of years and what we think is going to go forward. So we've been doing that. Is everybody all right? Because I've just had a thing that my internet's a bit unstable. So having a look, we did draft 1 and draft 2, and the consensus coming from the finance and general purpose was that we went with draft 2 because one is that we shouldn't really put any income that we're going to be earning this year. We don't know if we're going to be earning anything due to COVID. We don't know what any grants that we would be getting in or anything else like that. So that excludes any income for room rental or anything that we might do in the way of coffee mornings or anything else like that. And also we looked at that, and we then looked at things like what we would be spending on Westgate Day and things like that. And obviously that would reflect again because of COVID. So we've kind of moved the budget around to reflect that. I've not had any reports. We did put this out for everybody to view. Nobody's come through, but the only section which has been mentioned has been the fact that we need to look at our asset transfers again because of COVID. We put 5,000 in it. Jill is going to is awaiting on confirmation of exactly how much the insurance would be and how much the maintenance contract would be. So we've put that as an initial figure in there. So because of that, we know that the first year, particularly because of COVID, that we are likely to be supporting this particular asset transfer. But hopefully by the time next year comes, we would have got our football matches up and running, and we'll get our income coming in from there. And besides the grants that are going to be applied for, hopefully, if there be any grants left and COVID hasn't used them all up, so coming through. Yeah. So that's why we've done that. We've also put a little contingency in at the moment for climate change. We've only put £1,000, and we'll be building that on year by year for at the moment, and also put a little bit in for our traffic improvements. One of the things that we do ask the councillors to look at, we have got our earmarked reserves, and what we're saying is that out of our earmarked reserves, we've obviously got a couple of items that haven't been identified. So at the moment, our capital projects, we haven't identified anything there. So if there's anything from climate change or for traffic improvements, we can use that and earmark them for that. So I think at some stage we need to go through that and look at that. We're still building up our general reserves. We're supposed to have in half of our precept money at least for our general reserves yet, but we're getting there. We're building up a little bit each time we're doing a contingency on it. So we are trying to start to look ahead for things like climate change that might require us to spend out and bits and pieces like that. But we have got 15,000 in our earmarked reserves that we do need to identify and put against projects. And it seems to be the consensus that actually the two areas are the climate change and the traffic improvements for the town. So I think at some stage we'll look at the finance and general purpose and we'll put a proposal together of what we think the split could be that we could put forward to that and move that forward, if everybody's in agreement, of course.
Yes, no, that's really clear. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor, and thank you to the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Councillor Page and Councillor Pennington have both got their hands raised.
Councillor Page.
I just wanted to refer to the item on climate change. Could we have a little bit of clarification about what the funding would be going towards in relation to climate change for the benefit of residents?
Yep, this is a request that came through from Councillor Scott. So I'm going to ask her for the actual breakdown. One was for training, wasn't it? One.
Yeah, so when I put the figure in, half of it was for training for councillors with regards to climate change. If we found there's actually a very nice course that we can go on, so that's a possibility of the funding. But it's kind of with regards to these type of issues, usually it's part funding for how we can start to look at decreasing our actual greenhouse gas emissions. And maybe even getting in sort of a consultant to assist with the decarbonisation plan for the town council. And then half of it would be, say, sort of impacting on the ecology side of things. So could we have some funding set aside for tree planting or biodiversity gains in the town? So it was kind of a split between those two things. But seeing as it's only £1,000, then you know, we'd have to sort of look at the scope of it now. But I thought that the idea of looking at our reserves and seeing actually that they need to be earmarked for projects, perhaps if something comes up where we can look at, you know, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions through some kind of instalment or some kind of action, that could be interesting to look at an actual project funding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Scott. Councillor, was it Councillor Pennington next?
Yes, it was.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Pennington.
Thank you. Yeah, when I looked at the budget, I thought to have two possible approaches outlined was extremely useful. And as of 1st December, I think we would need to stick to the prudent one because we don't know what we will be able to do in future. But procedurally, doesn't this box us in and mean that we couldn't, for instance, find funds for Westgate Day or other causes? We have presumably to put forward a single proposal to TDC in terms of the precept. I'm just a bit worried that we would tie our hands by going for the more prudent one if later on we want to expand a bit. The second point I want to make is precisely on the point which Councillor O'Connor has raised in relation to non-earmarked reserves. We did used to have a list of projects. I mean, I remember it because the shop canopies was on it, but I think the shop canopies could be included in a more general, you know, renewal of the town centre approach. But I don't think we're short of things to put there. Normally, this money would be could be used to be our contribution towards things that were financed by other agencies like the lottery. They very often ask for a local contribution, and I think the idea was that we could find a local contribution from that amount in the reserves. The third thing was that I understood when we adopted the minutes earlier this evening that the money for the traffic surveys would go in the budget, and that we would intend to do those rather than put them in reserve. It seems to me that the wording clearly implies that, so I'm not quite sure why they've been put in reserve. But I would like to thank Councillor O'Connor. it's a joy to behold this this budget presentation after what we've had to endure sometimes in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll answer those questions. We have put £1,000 aside for Westgate Day. The idea is that hopefully if we are lucky enough to be able to do a smaller scale Westgate Day, that we can actually try and get funding as well in, but we have put £1,000 aside to support that. And we hope if we're going to do something with stalls that we can get some income in to counteract it. So we do hope that we can do it, but obviously, as always, we don't want it to be total paid out by the town council. We want to be able to source fundings to be able to put these things on. So we're looking at doing that still. The only reason we've said about putting the 1,800 inside to put it into earmark reserves is just literally if we don't spend it straight away, it will go in there and be drawn back out again. That's all. It is in the budget. It's in the budget line, but it just because it is earmarked for something until we actually get paid business running, if you like, and be there ready for us to be billing for it. That's all. Any other questions at all?
Well,
Do any
Councillor Pennington
Councillor-
put his hand raised.
Councillor Pennington?
Sorry, could I come back on the question of what do we actually propose to TDC as the preset, the level of the preset?
Oh, at the moment, well, we're just waiting clarification on the the asset transfers ones, just so that it doesn't change. But if that doesn't change and nobody else has got anything, the likelihood of this type of budget would be going through. And actually, this particular one, draft 2, means that we'll be having a 4.23 increase. It's actually only in real terms nearly 6,000 that we're asking for extra this year, but because we have a low budget, it comes out at 4.23%, which is why we've tried to keep it under the 5% increase. But obviously, you know, that's down to everybody else to vote on. So the plan is that if everybody is happy with draft 2 at this moment, apart from the fact that that may change if the costings we get in is slightly more, this will be put forward to the January full council and then be voted on. We will also have the TDC's normal formula in, so we know exactly what the budget will be. So I will continue to work with Jill on that, present it at that budget and January, and hopefully we can vote on it and go forward on it in January. Dr. Scott?
Yeah, I think with regards to an increase in 6,000, just the quick calculation, that's only actually an increase of about roughly £2 per household, something like that, isn't it? So it's not a massive increase. So thank you very much for putting that together.
Yeah, we try to keep, I mean, you know, obviously we're a small council. Our residents have had a real hardship this year. We don't want to give them any further hardship. So we will try and get as many grants and everything else that we possibly can to support the activities that we do, and still ensuring that Westgate is a fun place to be able to come to as soon as we can have any fun in our lives. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. We have to make a decision on this. So the recommendation is from the Finance Committee is that we adopt draft 2, which would be a 4.23% increase, and the draft 1, the uplift would be 4.51. How do you want to do shall we vote? How would you like to do it, Councillor O'Connor?
I think
the voting.
I think the consensus must be for the recommendation. So we'll go for the fact to see if everybody's happy to run with draft 2 for the reasons that have been told why we've got draft 2, because of prudency of income, and we'll see what the result is from there. And if people are unhappy, we can then rediscuss.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so would you like me to launch the poll for you?
please? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So I have 7 members in favour of draft 2, 1 against, and that just leaves Councillor Matthew Scott. Abstain, thank you.
So it looks as we're carrying forward with draft 2. As I said, the only difference of changes will be that is once we get the actual costings in from there, and we await TDC's
base rate.
Really, yeah, base rate. So, and then that'll be presented at full council in January for us to vote. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. And as Councillor Pennington pointed out, it's a wonderful thing. But the next item is the burning question of request for a meeting from Millwood Designer Homes and Gillings Planning. They did request to join us tonight, but obviously our agenda was too full. They've also requested to join the Planning, Highways and Environment Committee on the 8th. And it's whether or not we decide that this is a good thing. You've all got the agenda item in front of you. I'll read it out. Following the notification from Thanet District Council, the Town Council is invited to submit comments. Wrong one. Members to discuss how to progress communication with Millwood Designer Homes, Gillings Planning, following the outline planning application for land south of Westgate and Garlinge. And it's a discussion, it's not a decision. I'm good at making mistakes. This is opinions of councillors. When do we want, and when do we want to speak to Gillings, Millwood Design? Does anybody have any comments on this? Councillor Pennington.
Thank you. I think Councillor Page was first. I'm not sure.
Yeah, forgive me because I can't see anybody.
Well, just briefly, my gut reaction is to say no at this stage. I think we can put in a formal objection into the planning process and then see what happens after that. But but that's my gut reaction, but it may be the wrong one.
Councillor Page.
Yeah, Councillor.
Thank you. I feel there should be a logical process with this. We need to get the objection put together as discussed earlier and into TDC for the 8th, which is next Tuesday, coincidentally the same day as the next PH&E meeting. I think once that objection has gone through and we're feeling more solid in our own feelings about those objections, then it might be appropriate at a later date to meet with them to have an exchange. I don't feel that we can completely push them away. I think we will need to meet with them at some point, but perhaps it's too early now. And I think when we do meet with them, we need to be strong in reiterating the objections that we will have submitted by then to TDC, so that we're open and honest. And basically we will be regurgitating, for want of a better word, discussions that we've had with them in the past. But it will be on a more formal basis. This isn't just going to be us protesting against something that we don't want in the town. This now is going to be at a formal level, and following the discussions we had with our advisor last week on planning, we do need to decide what the basic elements are that we need to have firmed up and cemented going forward. And we would need to have those things clear in our own minds and perhaps put them down in paper just for ourselves, so that when we do have that discussion with Millwood, we're talking from a point of strength about what we need and what the town needs from this development, so that it's taken forward in a positive way, but addressing what should be coming out of this application. I hope that makes sense. If not, let me know.
Thank you, Councillor Page.
Okay, I think Councillor Matthew Scott was next, and then Councillor O'Connor.
Councillor Matthew Scott.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone down this road many a times. I mean, I can only imagine the council prior as well to my sort of joining in 2017, where we've had numerous exchanges with Millwood Homes, or whatever guises they put themselves under. And for me, I've always just seen that it's a sales pitch when they come and meet us. They try and sell us something. We put forward our objections. We say, can you ensure this? Can you make sure this will happen? And it's very much, okay, yeah, we'll take that on board. And then we get shown some new plans where they make it all a green sort of a covering, shall we say. And when you actually put, you know, the actual statistics to paper, you see how dense this site is, and the dreams that they're saying, these open spaces. I don't know. I mean, I really do think we go with the objection. I really think at this point, we're engaged. I mean, I know we have done, and we can say that as a town council, we've tried to engage. We've tried to basically have these conversations and basically find a middle ground. But I mean, I'd like to believe that as a town council, have been against and objected every single time and said that we don't want these houses. And I think they know that. And I think that needs to just stand firm. I mean, for me, I can't really see a meeting sort of working. I mean, obviously that's my opinion. There's certainly many others, but I think we really need to push firm and strong with this objection. And as a councillor, Dr. Scott has pointed out in the past, now that the local plan has been regrettably put forwards, we are to basically jump on each and every single one of these individual applications that affect Westgate and Garlinge and object individually and as well as the town. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Scott. I mean, Councillor Scott, thank you. Councillor Dr. Scott, do you want to say anything?
I think Councillor O'Connor was first.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor.
No, right, you can say.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to reiterate, I feel disappointed. Every time we try to have a meeting with them, it's been a presentation that they've given us rather than them actually answering our questions and us having a meeting. So and also from all the consultations in inverted commas that has been had, none of the objections have seemed to have been listened to. So I must admit, I'm finding that a bit frustrated, although I do take on board what Councillor Page has said. We do need to go forward on it, but on the fact is that it should be us inviting them, kind of trying to come on to us and give us a presentation. We should tell them how we want the meeting to be, and not for them to just show us some nice pretty pictures and say that it's all going to look lovely until they just build the first few houses and run away, which is my opinion. So I just think it'd be very careful is what I'm saying. I think we should be careful with them. They seem a bit dodgy.
Really?
Well,
thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Dr. Scott.
Yeah, I think the last meeting that we had with them, I remember we were having a discussion around affordable homes, and we were talking about sort of around the 30% mark over the whole master plan, 30% affordable homes. And then they said to us, how would you feel about one area being like no affordable houses, and then obviously some more, you know? And we were like, no, that's not going to work. And I'm trying to think of the phase one. How many affordable homes are in phase one? So yeah, often what we're kind of saying goes onto deaf ears. I think that's the problem. I think there can be some discussions in the future of sort of minor things that, you know, they might want to change to please us. They have looked at a little bit of the styling of the end of Victoria Road and Belmont Road. It does look like they've given some kind of hedging around those areas. So it's not as bad as we once thought. And there is some sort of orchards and things over Dandelion Way. But it kind of does look like they've put all of the open space over Dandelion. You know, they've kept the orchard, they've kept that view, and it's all going to be very nice and green around that first phase one. And as Councillor Connor pointed out, you know, they're doing the phase one, and this is all, you know, the plush, wonderful Millwood Homes design. What's going to happen on the next stages? Really, that's my concern. I think the design as a whole isn't as bad as it could be. However, I still think that, yeah, we need to go down the material planning route. And I think the fact that we've got a consultant that can help us with the legal side of things, if we can get an argument which is legally binding, then they have to change their design or they have to change their application because we've made a legal argument. All the other discussions that we've been having with them seems to be a bit kind of wishy-washy, and they don't really need to take any note of what we're saying because actually they're going to do the least they need to do with regards to planning law. So we need to just find material considerations within planning that they have to take note of. And I think that's the route to go down, which we are going down with this application, with this consultation that we're going to put in, the objection. And then, you know, down the line, once they see that we can go for the planning law, they might actually start to give us a bit more respect, I think, when they come to meetings, because we actually know what we're talking about.
Yes, that's a very good point, as was Councillor O'Connor's. Well, as have everybody's points been good, but about being wary. And yes, I do think that, well, we all know that phase one will be the showcase. And what is worrying is that the extended boundary will then be sold to other developers and they will end up with Westwood, Wimpy style development, because it's a larger area, isn't it, which they can fill. At the moment, there's plenty of space, but it's possible that in future that will just be a bigger space for more development rather than spacious development. That could easily happen. So the consensus seems to be that we wait, we submit our application and we consider speaking to Millwood on our own terms once things have settled down a little bit after submitting our objections. Is that a fair assumption? Is that a fair comment? Is everybody happy with that?
Yes, you've got you've got thumbs up. I think everyone's happy with that consensus. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, Jill. All right then. Thanks for that. That's some really good solid comments from everybody there. That's heartening. The last item on the agenda, slightly more light-hearted, an exciting opportunity to enhance our retail environment, which would be absolutely lovely because let's face it, our retail environment has really been through the mill this year. First of all, with the one-way system, and well, no, actually, firstly with the pandemic and then the following one-way system. So it would be lovely to light up the streets. And Jill's going to tell us about this. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Yes, so clearly the Christmas Lights Committee have a Kent County Council funding opportunity, which they want to use that fund for new lighting This would be predominantly from the Pools Bar location down to the public toilets which are on Station Road. So it would be fulfilling the lighting that's currently there, because some of that now is obsolete, it doesn't work any longer. So following conversations with Councillor Cornford and Councillor O'Connor, and because I was on the SLCC conference, I actually had discussions with a company called Blacher, and they actually do these wonderful illuminations now that are environmentally friendly. So anyway, I've been looking into costs of these lamp column lights that we could purchase. Originally, I mean, we were looking at all Station Road, St Mildred's Road, Camborne Avenue and Cuthbert Road, but clearly if there's going to be new lights on Station Road, we wouldn't have to address that this year. So the actual 8 lamp columns which I've identified, there's 2 on Cuthbert Road, 2 on Camborne Avenue and 4 on St Mildred's Road. So the actual cost of the lights from Blacher, they're called Motifs, is £2,043.20, which includes delivery. I have had confirmation from a local business who has offered sponsorship in the sum of £1,600. So therefore the balance proposed to be met by the Town Council would be £443.20 for the purchase of the motifs. Obviously there are also costs incurred for the conversion of each lamp column, because they need to have a socket on the top of the lamp column to actually allow the electricity supply. There's a local electrician that we've used previously, and they quoted that the actual cost would be estimated to be £2,000 in total. So this is for all the materials needed for each lamp column, the labour cost, and the actual cost, because Kent County Council, we have to have a lighting licence from them as well, which is just over £100. So obviously in successive years, the outlay wouldn't be as much, because once the lamp columns are converted and you've paid out for all the materials to do that, then subsequent years it wouldn't be as much. So it's estimated to be in the region of about £500. Because clearly as well, when they do this work, they need to hire a cherry picker to get access to the top of the lamp column. So that has to be a cost incurred as well. So when I was having conversations with Councillor Cornford and Councillor O'Connor, we identified in the budget that we actually had £2,400 that has been left from the small grants funding for this year. Clearly the groups are not meeting at the moment, so we haven't had any applications from small community groups. So it was really felt that we put this to members this evening, that if there's a strength of feeling that they actually want to put the small grants budget funding towards these new lights for this year, and then obviously in future years we could build on the numbers that we bought this year. We intending to buy 8, but clearly you can build on that each year if you wanted to. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to read the report, and it's over to anyone who's got any comments, please.
Thank you, Jo.
So Councillor O'Connor had her hand first, and then Councillor Page.
Councillor O'Connor.
Okay, I just to reiterate, actually it's not all from the grants and donation. There'll be 750 left from Westgate Day that we haven't. We used some for COVID. We moved 2,000 out for COVID. We had a small little cost that came through that were done. So actually some of that is already in from our events budgets anyhow. And we felt that this was a community thing where people needed a bit of lighting up. So we thought it would be quite a good use of community funds. That's it.
And Councillor Page.
Thank you. It may be just a picky question, but the licence, is that a one-off, or would that need to be renewed annually?
That is renewed annually, but what happens is you have a one-off cost the initial year of £102, but then it's actually £26 subsequent years, because once you've actually had the licence the first year, they don't do as many, they just do a quick check, and it's a much smaller fee. It's about £26 it was this year.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be lovely to have some lights. We it's the darkest time of year, and it is the thing that picks us all up, isn't it? when you see lights on people's homes and in the trees. I think it could look lovely. Thank you very much.
Good, good.
Councillor Matthew Scott has his hand raised.
Councillor Matthew Scott.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, Christmas cheer is always a good idea. And yes, I did spend ages trying to get that to rhyme. So with the turnaround with these lights, I mean, if it was a day, I mean, we're sitting day. What are we sort of looking in turnarounds? And I mean, my only other question
Councillor
is
Scott,
just
your sound is really bad.
lighting.
Your sound is really bad. We're not picking up too well.
Hello there. Is that better?
That's much better, much better. Thank you. Carry on.
Sorry there. Okay, well, you missed my joke then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So regarding the actual lights turnaround, what are we sort of looking at if it's agreeable with members today, because we are in the 1st of December, and then secondly was just do we have any sort of strategic positions? I mean, I know that we're having 4 in St Mildred's. Do we know where they're placed? We're not going to get, for example, any complaints from residents from upper flats, anything along those lines. I mean, are those things that have taken into consideration, or will we need to take those into consideration, thereby maybe delaying the initial installation? So going back, yeah, the first question is, when can we sort of look to get these sort of up and running?
Yeah, okay. So basically, the company have got them on hold. I need to let them know tomorrow. I told them we had a meeting this evening, and they said they should be able to have them here within 7 days. And then it is clearly to get the electrician to get here on site. So I do realise it is a very tight window of opportunity. But obviously, if there was any delays that would mean it's not in time for Christmas, then clearly that's not going to happen this year. But you know, I would try my absolute best to make sure that we get those all installed in time if members agree this evening. In relation to where they're going to be located, so there are 4 lamp columns in St Mildred's Road, and I've looked, and they're actually positioned not directly in front of windows. There is one, interestingly, in front of the block on the corner. So I think we would have to check on, you know, the people that live on that property to make sure that that wouldn't impact and how bright it might be. So that is something I can speak to the electrician about.
Thank you, Jill. Is the electrician, presumably he's primed and ready to go if councillors agree? Lovely, thank you. Is anybody else wanting to comment? Does anyone else want to comment?
I can't see any more raised hands.
Right, thank you, Jill. In that case, we need to make a decision on whether we go ahead with this idea or wait until next year. Are we voting?
Councillor O'Connor has her hand raised.
Councillor O'Connor?
I propose that we go ahead with it this year. It'd be nice to see something down the St Mildred's of Cuthbert and the other side of Westgate. You know, Lymington, we just don't ever do that. So it'd be lovely to see it. So I'd like to vote that we go ahead this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Councillor O'Connor's proposed. I'll launch the poll for you. Okay, thank you very much. So that's 8-4, and Councillor Matthew Scott, thank you very much. So that's 9 in favour. Thank you.
Oh, lovely. Whoa, that's exciting. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of the agenda tonight. I'd like to say many thanks to Councillor Faye Nightingale for stepping forward for the Finance Committee. That's really good news. So thank you, Councillor Nightingale, and thank you, everybody. Many thanks to Jill, our guiding light and constant source of support and information. And everybody, I hope your week goes well. Stay safe. And the next meeting is on the
January.
January.
The 5th of January.
Yes. Sorry, it's got the 26th of November. I thought, no, that's not right. Yes, 26th of January.
Everyone.
The 6th of January.
Yes.
Happy Christmas.
Have a lovely Christmas.
Yes.
Have a
And
nice
that.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Happy Christmas.
Apple
Bye-bye.
and mince
Have a good
pies.
Christmas.